What is up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you need to know about if you think about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So if you're watching it live, you're watching the replay, just leave me a comment below. I'll try to answer it live if you're here live. And if I don't, I'll come back to the comments later and answer it the best that I can there. So make sure you fire off those questions, those comments below. If you have any specific questions about your specific area, or maybe somewhere you're looking at maybe purchasing, we can also pull that up. And if you'd like, I can also just sit down and have a conversation with you. I have a Calendly link in most of my descriptions on my videos below. Should have one by tomorrow on this one, where you can schedule an appointment with me completely free. So let me see here. It doesn't seem that it's registering. My internet's moving a little bit slow here today, guys, but I want to cover, as we always do, we're going to start off with the market stats. And I saw something regarding Palm Coast these past couple months, which I thought was very interesting. So I want to share that with you guys. And I'm going to do that right now. So let's go into the Domus Analytics. And this is looking at, once again, the entire Northeastern Florida area. So we're talking about all the major counties here: Baker, Bradford, Clay, Duval, Flagler, Nassau, Putnam, St. John's. So good bit of areas covered there. We'll also just take a quick look at Duval and St. John's before we get into Palm Coast, because obviously this is about St. Augustine for the most part. So let's just take a look at Duval County and see how that's doing in terms of pricing. Duval County, obviously the city of Jacksonville makes up the majority of Duval County. You can see here that pricing is up 3.2% compared to January of 2024. It's up roughly $10,000. So if you bought a home in January of 2024, you have about $10,000 in equity in your home, which, considering this past year and it being an election year, I don't think that's a terrible, jump in equity. So let's take a look at, I'll switch off here. We'll take a look at St. John's, and then we'll get to Palm Coast real quick. My internet is running extremely slow. Sorry for that. I wasn't able to connect on Instagram here for whatever reason. Still hasn't. So we're going to keep soldiering on. Hopefully this picks up a little bit. It's still not loading completely. Very interesting. Well, I must say that is the right market data. 480 is the price. I looked at this the other day, and it's up 0.8% from January 2024 to January 2025. So, compared to Duval, we obviously have a much higher median sale price in Duval County, but we're still seeing small gains year over year. Now, if you take a look at what I covered last month, you can see that in December we were at 500, 495, and then when you go back into July, we're at 539. But this is very typical. You can see peaks and valleys here of when the market goes up and then it goes down during the winter months every single year. And that's even prior to, 2021, 2020, kind of weird years, right? But prior to that, you can see the peaks and valleys as well. So if you're looking for a deal, best time to buy is going to be this time of year. If you're looking to, sell your home, best time to sell is typically going to be during the summer. So let's take a look at Palm Coast here, which is going to be Flagler County. It's going to be the majority of Flagler County. So we're just kind of putting all that together. But Palm Coast and Flagler County did a pretty huge jump here year over year. And I looked at it last month, and it's crazy when you see the spike, which you can see pretty actively on the screen here. Once again, the data is still loading, but up 4% compared to January 2024. And, if you're looking at November and December, 388, and then median sale price went up $60,000 towards the end of the year. And we're going to talk about a news story here in just a second from Lawrence Yun, who is the chief economic advisor for the National Association of Realtors, which I think is going to maybe shed some light on this, right? That why we saw such a drastic jump. And Palm Coast has been named the #1 place to retire by many publications. So that market data right there, what I first want to start off with is that could just be that huge jump that they had several higher end properties really pull that number up, because Palm Coast has some beautiful luxury properties, right? And if you're looking at price point, especially when you're comparing it to Miami, comparing it to St. Augustine, and the price point you're going to get in Flagler County and Palm Coast in general is typically going to be pretty great when we're talking about luxury. So that jump there, to me, I think it's just a couple of luxury properties have sold. I mean, I think it's probably not as many sales as you hit into December and January. So let's go ahead and take a look at Lawrence Yunn's economic outlook for the year, which I think had some good insights. So switch over here. He says things are looking up. Rates are stabilizing. Home sales will continue the upward trajectory that started in the final months of 2024. So many of you may know that we had the lowest year of home sales since 1995. But overall net housing equity swelled $35 trillion in 2024. Nearly a third of that growth came in the past 4 years. So people who have been buying have been gaining equity, though it may be small like in St. Johns County, or maybe it might be a little bit bigger like we've seen just in the past couple months in Palm Coast. So we've had the slowest home sales in 30 years, and housing affordability hit historic lows in the years of 2023 and 2024. And they're thinking 2025 really isn't going to be too much different. They're expecting rates to go down, right? And they did mention something about Donald Trump's first term and home sales and new homes that were sold. And they compared it to Joe Biden, but we want to leave this and just say like, hey, they're pretty close. 21.8 million existing homes and 2.7 million newly construction homes were sold. Under President Joe Biden, it was 19.3 million and 2.8 million. And I think the one thing to say there, especially when we're talking about something like that, is many people, regardless of who wins or loses, they just feel anxiety about the election, right? So whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, or third party, Green Party, whatever it is, this is such a big thing that's happening in the country that a lot of people are like, before I make this major decision for myself where I'm buying this big asset, I want to wait and see what happens in the next couple months. So I think in general, pent-up demand is going to then show differently as it comes into the first quarter here. So either way, back here, the high mortgage rates of 7 and 8% are over. The Fed will make further rate cut decisions in 2025 to move toward non-restrictive monetary policy. They're also saying that the Fed is lagging in one of the areas that is keeping inflation high, which is rents. So they typically are looking at government data versus actual like real-time data, which is typically, I think they say, a year to 2 years behind. So they're expecting once they get the newer data in, that inflation report is going to come down. But they're saying rates will not return to the 4 or 5% range, which occurred during Trump's first term. But they're expecting mortgage rates to be between 6 and 7. Now, what they did also mention is that with Doge, Elon, and Vivek to do some government slashing on the spending, it may be able to slide into the mid-5 range. And that's because the majority of government spending is promised on entitlements that cannot be touched, such as Social Security and Medicare. So it's possible that that happens because at the end of the day, government spending does correlate to inflation. We shall see, right? So there's also, and this is one other thing, the economy and jobs are other positive factors for home sales. Gross domestic product grew by 3% recently, and job gains have been ongoing. The housing demand pipeline, therefore, has been filling up. It's just a matter of more inventory and stable mortgage rates to transform dreams of ownerships to realization. So I think that follows kind of what, where you could look at Palm Coast. People were waiting on the sidelines to figure out what was going on. And they're deciding to move forward once they felt comfortable with how things were moving. So who knows, once again, as I'm very skeptical of any government reporting in terms of jobs, just like it has been the several couple years, whether it's, Trump, Biden, Republican, or Democrat, they're always going to fudge the numbers to make themselves look better, right? At least that's my perspective on it. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to look any more into it, but I think that's something to really keep in mind when we're talking about this kind of stuff. So if rates get into the 5s, I'm happy. I want that to happen, because then I can refinance my house. So I'll be happy if that happens. But if you look at the historical averages of mortgage rates, like the historical average is like 7.75%. We were just at historical lows, right, where people were getting like 2% interest rates depending on their credit score. So what's the likelihood that, we continue in the historic low area versus going past and moving up towards the historical average? If I were a betting man, I would bet the opposite. I bet that we're going probably up towards the historical average. But there's a lot of pressure on the housing market right now, especially because you saw the last 2 years. More lenders have dropped off the face of the planet. I think they had like 300,000 lenders in 2021 or 2022. Now there's like 90,000. And that's because it's really tough for a lender, especially here in our area. We have so much new construction. A quarter of our market is new construction sales. A quarter of our market is cash sales. So that leaves 50% of the market left up for the lenders to try and figure out how they can get some business done. So either way, let me make sure I don't have any questions here, any comments. Where did my comments go? Okay, good. We got nothing here, guys. Well, not good. I hope you guys leave me some comments, some questions, but we'll go on to the next news story. I did cover a lot just there, so if you have any questions about it, go ahead and fire off. We're here to answer questions live. So let's go on to the next thing that is plaguing Florida. I'm going to come out with a video on this again. I already did before, but I want to keep updating this kind of stuff, right? Condos in Florida are facing a growing crisis. What's next for What's next for owners after deadline? So the deadline was at the end of the year, where condos across Florida had to meet safety guidelines passed after the Surfside collapse. They had until December 31st to inspect aging buildings and come up with a plan to save for routine maintenance. This is also a thing where they're essentially saying that the associations will be required to fund reserves fully for the first time. And that there's obviously plenty of associations that haven't been saving and have been misusing those dollars. Maybe not misusing, but maybe that's not the right term, but not planning appropriately for building maintenance, especially when your condo is over 30 years. So a former state senator says, I think you're going to see bankruptcies. I think you're going to see people losing their homes just based on this new legislation for all these condos. So that means that it's going to be an increase essentially in HOA fees, right? So there could be assessments put onto these condo owners because of, what their reserves look like. And let's say if an inspector comes out to a 30-year-old condo and they say like, hey, you need to really, like, this building really needs some work. You're going to have to put a lot of money into it. Well, the only way these condo associations get any money is from the homeowners there. And they do that through the homeowners association, which you typically pay monthly. But if there's anything outside of that, and if they need to fully fund the reserves right now, that means that they have to charge an assessment onto these homeowners, right? Or condo owners. So will people be able to pay that assessment? How much will that assessment be? Hard for anyone to say. It's going to be obviously specific to each condo building and depending where their situation is. But what they want to do ultimately is figure out a way to maybe we figure out a different way to structure this. Maybe they don't have to fully reserve, fund the reserve funds. Maybe they just have to fund. Okay, here's the major infrastructure project for the building. We need to have this funded, but these little things that are on a time delay because everything is going to wear out in different time periods. We can fund those once we get this big rock taken care of. So that's kind of the legislation they want to push forward. I guess that starts in March where they're going to be doing that. Seems like these guys have all the time in the world when people are really like, what's going on here? But obviously this is, the legislation was put in good faith, right? To be for the greater good so that we don't have condo buildings just collapsing, right? But that's going to make it more expensive for insurance. It's going to make it more expensive for assessments on homeowners. And also if they need to sell, now it's a whole bunch of questions, right? Regarding like, okay, hey, if I'm looking to buy this condo, what am I getting myself into in these next couple years when this is getting figured out? Because I don't think this is going to get figured out this year, just knowing how fast these guys move. So you could be buying something and then maybe get hit with an assessment 2 years down the line to where you're like, I can't do this. I got to get out of this thing. So it just adds a question. Like, so if you need to sell your condo, it's a big problem, right? Because buyers are going to have way more questions and be a lot more weary and probably more competitive when it comes down to it. So they did note some stats here from the Association of Realtors for the state of Florida. Statewide condo listings shot up nearly 43% in 2024. According to data from Florida Realtors, the number of homes sold remained flat and the median sales price fell about 4.5%. So that's nothing that would really scare me at this point. It doesn't seem like the bottom's falling out. Going down 5% depends when they're pulling that data, because like just how we looked at St. Johns County, I mean, the prices vary from peak of the market to the bottom of the market year over year. So hard to know when they're pulling that data, but I will make a video about it and I'll look more into that for the Florida stats, see what we can find out for you guys. So pretty interesting. At least I think it's interesting. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, any questions about the condos here in Florida? If you're looking to buy one, sell one, let me know. We can cover it here. All right, let's go on to the next news story here. I'm My internet is moving so slow. What is going on? And once again, we're talking about property insurance, and this is just one, potentially a new bill, what they could be putting forward. Come on. Property insurance and cost of housing is among the biggest concerns for Floridians, and that's no secret, right? We know that. You don't need a UNF poll to tell people that. But they introduced a couple of bills that get to homeowners. However, some experts say if it's approved, the bills might have the opposite effect. Sorry, I can't scroll here, guys. This is killing me. Calling up Xfinity right after this. So, reintroducing one-way attorney fees, which would require insurers to cover the legal fees of plaintiffs. And people are saying like, hey, this is going to they're facing opposition already. This legislative change could lead to an increase in lawsuits and higher costs. So it's hard to say what's the right answer in this situation, right? Like, they did just make they passed it to limit the amount that attorneys can charge when it comes down to claims on insurance claims across the state. So it's kind of just like, all right, hey, we're going to make another law where you can make claims, and the insurance has to pay for the lawyer that's for the plaintiff. So then at that point, then they're incentivized to make more claims, right? Because everything the plaintiff. What's the right thing to do, guys? I don't know. It's funny that they propose these laws and they're like, hey, this may happen, this may not happen. And it's like, okay, so if it happens, then just let's get rid of the law and we figure something else out. I don't know. Seems like that everything is so slow moving when it comes down to law. I don't know. You guys have heard me talk about political stuff enough. So either way, let's get on to the next one. This is more fun. We'll talk about this one here. You have the Sing Out Loud Festival. Oh my God, come on. All right, so if you don't know, Sing Out Loud Festival is pretty much a month-long festival in St. Augustine. And then they have a headliner, which is, pretty much the whole month is free, but the headliner, this show here in particular, which is held at Francis Field in downtown St. Augustine, is a ticketed event. It, apparently the past couple of years has brought 30,000 people for that weekend to St. Augustine, which during September, that's a slower month for sure for tourism. And that was kind of the purpose, is like, initially it was like, hey, let's get the locals out so they can go enjoy the town. Summer's been beating everyone up. So the locals can get out, the businesses still get a little bit of a pop of business, and it makes it a little bit nicer for everyone. So this festival has been a hit the past couple of years. Last year was Eric Church and Noah Kahan. Year before that was Mumford and Sons and the Black Keys. Me and my wife and a friend went to that one. This year, it's going to be Hozler, Beabadoobee, Vance Joy, the Teskey Brothers, Rilo Kiley, Father John Misty, Mary G. Perez, David Kushner, and many more. September 20 to 21. It's going to be a good time. We might go this year. We might just get single day tickets just to see Hozler. We've seen him before in concert, and he's got a pretty great voice. But that's a fun festival, and it's really, I've been to a whole bunch of music festivals across the country. Bonnaroo and Firefly and Panorama and Governor's Ball, a whole bunch of different ones. And for this small area that they have here, they do a really good job. I was a big fan of Sing Out Loud Festival when I first went. I've already seen Eric Church, and I didn't know who Noah Kahan was, so we didn't go last year, but I think this year we are going to go. So it'll be a fun time. I definitely recommend getting VIP tickets, or I think it's General Plus tickets. We're probably going to go with the VIP, so we may go General Plus. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll have a baby by that point, so we might have to do VIP just so we can have some elbow room. But it was such a good time, such a good music venue and an event for downtown St. Augustine. So I'm a big fan of it. I know there's people in the town that are not big fans of it, but I don't really get it, to be honest. So either way, guys, I got one more news story for you. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. But I'm going to leave you for this Wednesday night after this one. Come on. Wheel of Death. What's going on? Oh, no. Well, as it's loading, I can talk about it a little bit. We've already talked about the St. Augustine, Northeastern Florida Regional Airport. They're looking to change their name. They're looking to make a whole bunch of changes, which I think is really cool. They also have the director. They've gone through, I think, 3 directors in the past 3 years. Apparently it was from several, man, this thing is still loading, unbelievable. Apparently it was from several like directors of the airport just completely flopping in terms of bringing a commercial airline here to St. Augustine. We've had commercial airlines flying in and out of St. Augustine before, but they start up, they get shut down. They start up, they get shut down. So they're actually doing developments now, and looks like they're moving forward on everything where they're going to be able to expand the St. Augustine airport and make it what we need, which is some air travel, something close here to St. Augustine, being such a huge tourist destination. So St. Johns County Airport Authority will be moving roads, adding state-of-the-art facilities, and making room for bigger, more modern aircraft. It's all part of a plan to meet the growing demand for air travel in the area. One of the first things on the agenda is relocating Hawkeye View Lane. With the support of the Florida Department of Transportation, construction could kick off as soon as late 2025. That's not all. The airport is also planning to roll out a comprehensive utility loop. This will support everything from fire safety to digital connectivity, ensuring the airport is ready for whatever the future holds. So the plan is being rolled out in phases with new hangars, a full-service fixed-base operator with fuel sales, and repair and overhaul facility. So I think that's pretty awesome. I know a lot of people may not like that, but for me personally, it'd be really great to get flights out of here to like maybe up north, or maybe, you know, hey, you want to make them go to Puerto Rico, that'd be cool. But even if it's like, hey, you can just take a flight, you can park here, I can be dropped off at St. Augustine Airport by my wife. I can take a quick flight to Orlando, and then it's something else where you can get somewhere else. That would be really nice. Because driving to Orlando when you got an early flight is a pain. You know, if you got a 7, 8 o'clock flight, that's like a 3 a.m. get up. And then you got to drive there, you got to park your car, all that good stuff. So yeah, I'd be really stoked for that. I'd be excited to see some development there and a commercial airline coming to St. Augustine, because my mother-in-law flew out of Daytona up to Wilmington, Delaware, and the flights are super cheap. I mean, or maybe it was Philly, I can't remember. Flights were super cheap. I think it was like $50 one way, right, to go up there, which is great for her and for us. But you go to the Daytona International Airport, there's no one around. I mean, there was like one car dropping someone off aside from myself, which is pretty crazy. But guys, I don't know what's going on with my internet here tonight. Either way, I think that's a cool thing. Any questions about this? If you're watching it live, watch replay, throw them in the comments below. We're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We're going to the market stats, the news you need to know about, think about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So until next Wednesday, guys, we'll see you. Hope you do well. Hope you have a great weekend. And we'll talk soon.